Welcome to the Winter Sports season premiere of This Week in Lebanon Warriors Athletics here on LebanonWarriors.com and ESP Media powered by Sidearm Sports. I'm Jason Griefer. Excited to welcome back Lebanon Athletic Director Keith Pantley to talk all things Warriors athletics. Keith, good to talk to you once again. Let's talk about where we are right now, kind of in totality. You know, we're moving into the winter season. We got through the fall season pretty well, and not a lot of big shakeups or big shutdowns, and that's a good thing. And we're now moving into the winter, and we're going to talk about that here today. Have you found yourself, now that we're moving into the winter season, maybe kind of getting a better handle on how to navigate this time that we're in, navigating all the protocols and all the things that you have to deal with on a daily basis? And to add on to that, how much overall have things been affected thus far in the winter season?
Well, I think having gone through the fall, you get a little less stressed out over different reports and things that are coming in because everyone's dealing with them. So it's become a little more comfortable with handling COVID. You know, obviously I'm not a doctor. You know, I'm not in the health field, so you kind of get a little nervous to make sure you're making the right decisions. But our administration's been great here. Our central office has put some things in place to really help us out and make educated choices as to how we operate athletically. So I think, and then working with other ADs and finding out how other districts are doing things. It's kind of just a close-knit group of people that are trying to do what's best for kids and, getting parents in to support their kids and spectate. There's certainly a few bumps in the roads, but I think that everyone has an appreciation for all that's going on to be able to get these games in and try to operate as much as we typically would. So, it's, when we look back on it, we'll probably be proud of the work we did, but
Sure.
Now day to day, you're just trying to go through and do what you can and take what comes next and move on.
Did the fall season and navigating through that give you some kind of template on how to move forward, or are you still operating on more of a day-to-day basis?
I think it did. When you move indoors, that makes things difficult. And then obviously just the different sports.
Yeah.
I think the biggest challenge moving into winter was the fact that things that are off campus that typically compete in tournament settings or invitational settings like swimming, wrestling, and bowling were very, very impacted from a scheduling standpoint, which had a lot of unintentional consequences when it comes to wrestling now needing the gymnasium more, which impacts basketball and right on down the line to other things. So, everyone's dealing with new challenges in their industry or whatever their walk of life is. But so we just continue to work through it and make sure we're doing everything we can to give our kids the most opportunities in a safe environment.
Let's start talking about some of these teams that you have going right now. Let's start with wrestling. I'm looking at the way things have gone and the where we're at now, and for me anyway, I'm looking at wrestling as maybe the toughest sport to pull a season all the way through with, because obviously we can't social distance when we're on the mat. You can't air wrestle from 6 feet away and decide who has the best style, so to speak. Everybody's in close contact when you're in these meets.
Right.
So how has the team gone about that? How have the coaches handled this season? And how have they handled it from the mental side, knowing that there is a possibility of some starts and stops along the way because you can't help but be in contact?
Well, as you know, wrestlers are a pretty resilient group, so they the mental aspect I don't think has been a challenge. I think the biggest thing is the way they had to change practice. Typically, they're in that small room, kind of working in groups or doing different drill work that they've had to adapt to smaller pods and things to protect, from quarantines and groups should something happen. From a match standpoint, just the way that they're watching the matches or organized on the benches has been different. But at the end of the day, at the matches, they're actually only, if they're doing things the right way, their only contact is one-on-one. So there hasn't been any mass quarantines from a wrestling standpoint, knock on wood.
Yeah.
So they've done a good job. So that's one benefit of wrestling, if they're not sharing partners too often and things when it comes to practice plans. that they shouldn't be shut down fully, but we have certainly had some kids that have had to take their time off. So it's certainly an interesting one. Yes, we're working through it.
Let's move on to the hardwood, and let's start talking basketball teams. Let's start with the boys first. Very good start in the first year in the ECC. 8-2 overall, 5-1 in the league. So you're sitting right now tied with Walnut Hills for second, just a half game behind Turpin. So right in a good spot this at this point. Really balanced team from what I've seen thus far on the season. You got three guys averaging between 11 and 13 points per game, so good balance there. But coming off a tough loss against Miamisburg, and it seemed like you just could not find the range from the field, no matter where you were. Nick Pirette goes 0 for 10 from the floor, and you shoot just 24%. So not the best offensive performance, needless to say. But coming out of that game, is this a point of concern for Coach Chivington, or are they looking at this as kind of just more of an aberration? It was just an off night.
I think they won 8 in a row prior to that.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, they lost their opener to Turpin, who's sitting in first place. So they won 8 in a row. I was there Friday night when they won on the road in triple overtime at Loveland, and we were kind of joking after the game that it was unfortunate they had to play the next day, but because they had seemed to run out of gas there.
Yeah.
Played a lot of minutes, put it all out on the line. It was a very just a high pace, intense game.
Yeah.
And fortunately, it was a non-conference game. They had beat Miamisburg earlier in the year, but we kind of knew that they needed to get a little rest in, and unfortunately had to play that next night. And as you mentioned, it was not their best outing. So I think it was just a little blip in the radar. I think it helped maybe refocus them, and they're going to have Kings coming up tonight, which right back to the conference, and I think they'll be ready to go. So just a great group of competitors. They get along really well.
Over on the girls' side, kind of a similar story in terms of the big picture. The girls are sitting 6-2 overall in the league, I should say, 8-3 overall, and just a half game behind Turpin. Of course, everybody's chasing Loveland at this point. 1, 4, or 5 as of late, so they're making they're getting in the right direction in that regard, building up the wins, I should say. As we're working towards this, and now heading into this week, you've got Turpin coming up. Played them a month ago and beat them handily, beat them by 25. Obviously, things are, different now a month down the road. You've gotten better. I'm sure Turpin's gotten better. Looking at the way things have gone, you've had to win late with more reliance on your defense early on. Your offense is kind of hit a struggle here as of late. And I think it's also due in part to the competition you've played. You played a really tough schedule thus far. In seeing the way it's gone, you're winning games early with your offense, and your defense has been fine all year long. That's not a question. But lately, you've had to rely more on that defense to win 4 out of 5 and so forth. Is that something that you and the Coach Hodges look at as just say, we played a really tough schedule, or does that kind of go with the ebbs and flows of an entire season?
I think Coach is just looking for ways to win games. I think they work really hard. I think the biggest thing is, the ECC has discovered the talent of Kendall Foley, who was a GWalk Player of the Year and is just having a tremendous year offensively. Going to go play D1 at Oakland University up in Michigan. But they're finding ways to take her out of the offense, and Coach is doing a great job of, first of all, their defense is stepping up, but finding ways to win games other ways, and other people stepping up to contribute offensively. That's the game of basketball. It's not a one player game. So figuring out a way for the team to be successful outside of Kendall just going out and scoring 25 a night. So that's the challenge. That's what Coach is working on, and the girls are doing a great job of figuring out ways to just come together and figure out their best version. If teams are going to take away one thing, what's another way that we can be successful as we head towards the postseason?
How has Kendall Foley handled that on a day-to-day basis, knowing that everybody knows who she is, and now they're finding out how good she is, and so they're, as you said, they're trying to scheme to take her out of the game, and in some cases, maybe able to limit her in some instances, and yet she's seeing her teammates come in and pick up that slack to where maybe she's having an off night, or maybe she's being doubled or tripled, and they're coming in and picking up for her.
Well, I don't think this is new to her. She plays a lot of basketball at a high level.
Mhm.
I think that she remains level-headed and comfortable and has a great relationship with coach to know when to put her foot on the gas and when to let the game come to her. And so she's done a great job. I love watching her play, and hopefully we finish strong here.
Yeah, and then they're in a really good spot in the league going forward as we're about to turn the page into the second half of the season. And he said Turpin coming up here, big one there. Could move into second place all by yourselves there with the winner if you're able to hold serve and sweep Turpin in the regular season. Let's move on here and let's talk about your academic team. This is something that doesn't necessarily get as much attention and glamour as some of the other sports here, but that they're just as much as student athletes as anybody else is. They're getting themselves going here, and everybody's kind of had a late start to the season. But right now, sitting at 2-2, you've got Turpin coming on Friday. They've yet to get into the win column this season. So in theory, a match here you should take care of business in. Going forward, you're looking at Anderson, Kings, Little Miami, Walnut. They're all 4-0 right now. So you got some teams ahead of you. How important is a match like this against Turpin, who hasn't won a match, for your team to take care of business in this one to keep pace in the league?
Well, I mean, obviously, you always want to win your next one. But for those people that check this video out, if you haven't been to an academic quiz team meet or competition, it's a pretty cool deal. It kind of makes you feel a little bit. I don't know. Like I go to those things. I have so much fun watching them, and
Yeah.
there are some hard questions. It doesn't make you feel like the brightest bulb in the box when you go to those things, but it is cool the way that they compete. And I'm excited that they're home this week, so I get to watch them. Unfortunately, with COVID, we can't open the doors to everybody, but
Yeah.
put it on your bucket list to get to one of those things, and because it's quite the competition and it's a lot of fun.
Are you confirming right here on the podcast that you're not an assistant coach on the quiz team?
No, I am not, and I mean it's a cool deal though. It's something that doesn't get a lot of traction or attention, but um, some of our best kids are part of that group, and I love supporting them.
How much of a regular training regimen have they been able to have, if you will? I would have to imagine it's more the opposite of wrestling in that, they can have as close to a normal, training off-season practice, if you will, because you don't necessarily have to be in close quarters. You can meet, over Zoom or, spread out in a library, things like that. How has that been?
I think they've been full throttle since they could start. So they're excited that the competition started and they're able to get some under their belt here and hopefully continue through the end of the year.
And they're certainly off to a good start there. And as you said, a lot of room left for a lot of room left to go in the season. So certainly all the possibilities ahead for them. Let's jump into the pool, and this is another sport that a lot of folks have been kind of curious about how it would go. How do you navigate the waters of this, so for lack of a better phrase? There, we've heard in some instances they'll have swimming teams will have meets and they'll have you know swimmers from the same school in lanes 1, 2, and 3, and the next lanes 4, 5, and 6, and all those types of things. What's that been like at Lebanon and trying to negotiate through that?
Our coaches, Mark and Carol, have done a great job. Really, the toughest part is parents not being able to go to our meets there just because of the capacity restrictions on the deck and things. But and then having to switch to a lot of duels and try type matches. So
Hmm.
we've had a great schedule so far. We've competed against the Ursulines and LaSalle and Elder, Little Miami Kings, and coming up on Thursday, we're going over to Cincinnati, or we're going over to is it CCD? Yeah, we're going over to
Hmm.
CCD on Thursday,
Hmm.
and then we have the ECC meet coming up next week. So it hasn't been your typical big events around the holidays and all those types of things that we're used to. So just keeping them in the water, keeping them fresh, getting competition under their belt, and hoping that the postseason tournaments and everything go off without a hitch, and we can see where we fall at the end of the year. But they've been working hard, a lot of PRs, and coaches have been doing a great job.
Yeah, I was just checking things out online and seeing, they were in action this past weekend, as you said, playing going against some very 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 tough teams, and seeing a lot of podium finishes, in both the boys and the girls, and at various distances
Mhm.
as well. So I have to imagine, coming off results like that, as you said, against some very very good teams, coaches are pretty happy with how things went, especially this past weekend.
Yep, and just getting kids back in the pool and dealing with quarantines and different things.
Hmm.
Open your full strength towards the end, and I think they're excited to see where they stack up. Obviously, it's not a traditional ECC meet, but we'll be
Sure.
at 3 different locations. But a lot of these individual meets now go see where you stack up against a larger group of competition is exciting for them.
Let's move on to the bowling lanes. And this is another one that's a lot of folks don't necessarily think about as being a high octane sport when we can have a normal season, because you get a lot of fans there normally to check out bowling, and that really feeds into the environment at the high school level. Obviously, we can't do that, but it hasn't deterred the boys from just knocking them dead, so to speak, on the year. They're 8-1 overall. They're 7-1 in the ECC right now. You're tied with Loveland in the loss column. West Claremont's unbeaten. Still a long season to go here. But the thing I'm looking at as I look at the scores coming in, just the level of high consistency you have across the board. I'm looking at this. You've got 8 bowlers averaging 180 or higher.
Mhm.
Alec Frank and Josh Slaughter, they're averaging over 2 bills every time out there. How have the coaches been able to manage this litany of talent and to make sure that everyone stays sharp, match in and match out, so that everyone is seemingly essentially either at or above 200 every time out?
I think this has been a process of a couple years in building a program. Coach Volmering does a great job. I think their commitment to bowling,
Yeah.
um, that's been established years in the making. Their competition with each other has created this type of success. So I don't think COVID was going to stop them from continuing to find ways to improve their game. To be honest, this is just a great group that gets along. They love the game, and that's credit to Coach for instilling that in them. And it's a great program. They're fun to watch. They bring a ton of energy and have a lot of fun.
Have they had to rely on more individualized practice and training and leading up to the season, even during so, just because you can't have everybody together? And also the fact you may not necessarily have all the normal lanes available that you normally would?
Yeah, lucky for us, Coach Volmering is tied in with the bowling industry, if you will, and found some different ways for them to be able to access different alleys and things in the off season, in and around the protocols at discounted rates and the typical things that you would do to get them in. But it is unfortunate we can't have our parents in there with their painting ladders and stuff like that right now. But some of the away events we're able to, but we're just chipping away. And we appreciate our relationship with our host lanes though, and we'll keep on chopping wood as we get to the postseason here.
And it's no small thing to have that cooperation. It's good to see that you have that willingness from the outside to
Yeah.
really pitch in there. So the boys are right in the thick of things as far as the ECC goes. They're 7-1 overall. The girls have decided, we don't want to deal with any of this losing stuff, at least at this point. They're 9-0 on the season. They're 8-0 in the ECC. They've won most of their matches rather comfortably, not really threatened in a lot of
Yeah.
instances. If we're looking at the results here, I think Loveland was the closest to threaten you, and you beat them by 220 total pins. So
Mhm.
comfortable there. One lady I want to talk about is Hannah Rierick.
Anna.
Yeah, Hannah, she's really senior, has really just continued to evolve her game as she's gone along. 8 games on the year, 7 of them she's gone above 200. I mean, what has impressed you about that and seeing her in your short time at Lebanon? And what have the coaches said about the way she's continued to elevate herself?
Well, it's important to her. Most of the time, you're going to be good at things that are important to you, but it just shows that the level of commitment to your craft can, you can be successful if you're committed year round. And she does other things. It's not like,
Sure.
she's specializing, if you will, but she spends time trying to be the best she can be. Obviously has some God-given talent, but works her tail off to be the best she can be. I know the coaches are really proud of her. And I'm looking forward to following her this postseason. I think she can make a run at something really special that she'll remember for a long time.
And one of the and then right behind her, you've got other talent come over. Melissa Gallagher and Cassandra Ingram. They're both averaging around 170. They both had highs, 225, 236 for them as well. And I think that's just as big a part of it as well. Hannah's going to get a lot of the attention and well deserved. You got two other bowlers right behind her that aren't so bad either. That are big parts of the reason why you're off to a 9-0 start on the year.
Absolutely, and they're pushing each other.
And that's certainly what you like to see there. As we're winding down here on the season premiere, one last thing I want to get your thoughts on, and we'll kind of circle back to what we talked about at the beginning here and how we've been able to navigate through everything we've had to work through to get a winter sports season going. We talked during the fall season a little bit at various times about how it's been for not just yourself, not just for your staff, coaches, athletes, but the entire Lebanon community around you. And there was obviously a big adjustment period. I'm sure, you caught the brunt of some parental and frustrations from the outside community, from folks who want to be in attendance, they want to support, but they just can't. And I'm wondering now how that's been for you going into the winter season, that overall support from the Lebanon community. How has that been for you personally? And then for the student athletes?
Well, I know that we wish the students could be in there supporting their classmates. That's
Yeah.
the biggest frustration. But the parents, I think, have been great, and they understand. And I keep going back to that word, appreciate the opportunity that their kids have um, to participate. I think that they understand the plug could have been pulled very easily,
Yeah.
or additional restrictions could have been made and justified, but that we are finding ways to get them in um, to support their kids. We reduced the price to enter, so we weren't charging mom and dad over and over again, $7-8 a pop.
Yeah.
And that we are, we're doing things in a way that is best for everybody, to make this a memorable experience for their kids. And I think that there is an overall appreciation for getting this in. Kids only have 4 years in high school, and what happened last spring is just unfortunate for those kids to miss that season. So, having been through that, I think coming out on the other end, even from kids right up to parents and coaches and everybody, there is just an appreciation and for being out there and doing what you love to do. The simplest form, it's not the hoopla surrounding everything, but we're just out there playing that game, and there's a newfound love and passion for that. So,
well, I think part of it as well, and I want to give you a credit to this as well, to you and all the other athletic directors out there. And I think it's something to keep in mind is that there's no playbook for this. None of us were around for the Spanish flu of 1917, 1918. So we're everybody's in uncharted waters, and we've had to make do with the best we can. But it's a credit to you here at Lebanon that we've been able to have a fall sports season get all the way through. We've got a winter sports season we're right in the middle of right now, and barring something crazy happens, we've got a good shot at getting the full winter sports season through, and then we'll focus on the spring. So as we're getting started here in this winter season, I do want to congratulate you and your staff for getting us through the fall and now into the winter, because I know in our conversations, and you see it on a day-to-day basis, it has not been easy.
Well, I appreciate that. And before we leave, I just have to give a shout out to our competition cheer squad. It's our first year since we're in the ECC. So we did establish a competition team. They competed hard. There was just 4 points separating first place and fifth place over at Centerville on Sunday. And I think they finished in fourth, or just 4 points off the lead. So quickly have stepped up to be pretty competitive in their sport right away. So Coach Lamb and Coach Dooning do a fabulous job. Our girls are awesome. They bring so much spirit and have such a positive presence in our school community. So I just wanted to give them a nod before we leave.
Yeah, that's certainly a very welcome shot in the arm of that energy and that positivity for sure. Keith, certainly appreciate the time here today and look forward to continuing on here in the winter sports season.
All right, you got it. L's up.
There you go. That is Athletic Director Keith Pantling joining us for the season premiere of this week in Lebanon Warriors Athletics here on LebanonWarriors.com and ESP Media, powered by Sidearm Sports.